Josh, you and I were talking. You have been walking around downtown. You've seen like little buds here and there.
Very small buds. We're about maybe a week or two behind where we were just last year, and we can thank that snowfall that we saw back in February and March. But now, just a distant memory as we celebrate the first official day of spring right now, and that's where the cloud coverage currently sits over downtown Portland with a few stray showers a possibility as we work our way into the rest of this afternoon and into the evening. But drier, warmer skies, they are on the horizon as we currently sit out at PDX at 50 degrees, winds out of the south-southwest at about 9 miles per hour. We could see some gusts close in at about 25 miles per hour as the remainder of this afternoon proceeds. Now, with it being the spring equinox, it's called the equinox because we see an equal amount of daylight and nighttime for this day, with our sunset this evening expected at 7:23. That's a total of 12 hours and 9 minutes of daylight. So soak up every last bit of it as we continue to see those days get longer in length, which only helps fuel those average daytime high temperatures where over the past several days, racking up a total of 4 consecutive 60-plus degree days, as the rest of the month of March has seen a bit of a departure from the normal of 58 today, down by about 4 degrees or so as we sit below average this afternoon, but at least we've seen a surplus in the wet weather this month, over a ½ inch or so, making our total a little bit more than 3 inches of rainfall. And as far as those 60-degree days go, here's a look at the past several years. Now, back in 2015, that was kind of the breadwinner, seeing a total of 21 60-plus degree days, whereas for 2023, we've already managed to put 4 in the bank. Our average is 9, but not likely going to make that average this year, as the next several days are expected to sit slightly below normal. Although we get 2 more days of the 60s here in the near future, as our skies still remain covered with the cloud coverage and maybe just a stray raindrop or 2 possible over the next several hours. And that's going to be the case for all of western Oregon and Washington, as the snow flurries really primarily fall above about 3,000 to 4,000 feet. That does include the Cascades and our ski resorts. But I mentioned those winds. They'll be kicking up this afternoon, nearing about 25 miles per hour out of the south. But by the time we get to the early morning hours, we'll start to see them transition a little bit more out the north and become a little bit more calm, as a trough of low pressure currently pushes its way over the western half of the country. This is where the cool pocket of air currently resides, and it's going to keep our temperatures below average here over the next several days, as a low pressure system near the surface takes aim at the state of California. They're saying, please give the rain to our friends up in Oregon and Washington. We don't need any more because their drought situation is looking quite nice, although their flooding situation is increasing. Not to say the same, though, for the I-5 corridors. We expect to see those flash and ash showers for the remainder of this evening. Drying skies tonight and cooling temperatures will allow for some patchy fog to start to develop as we fall back into the 30s. By the afternoon hours, though, enjoy the sunshine. Enjoy the highs in the low 60s, because it's all short-lived. All good things must come to an end, and we start to see that by the time we get into Wednesday evening with increasing clouds and eventually the next batch of wet weather. So that puts our 48-hour rainfall totals at about an additional 1/10 of an inch for the valleys, closer to a 1/4 of an inch out along the shoreline, as our temperatures will warm up Tuesday and Wednesday back to the 60s, but then we start to take a bit of a tumble almost back to the mid-40s come Friday, as our average daytime high is at now 58. Today's forecasted high, 50 degrees on the dot. So where we're at now is where we will stay, as our early morning lows will fall back into the upper 30s. And it will be a foggy start with lower visibility, but that will start to increase as we move through the mid-morning hours tomorrow. 7-day forecast for you in the books. Tuesday, that's going to be the golden day for us, although it will be slightly breezier. But you can't complain when a daytime high temperature reaches up into the low 60s, especially after what we've experienced after this late little while. Jenny just sneezed, which obviously means the pollen count will also be rising Tuesday, Wednesday. We're now into that season, but the wet weather by the end of the week, that should help bring some of that pollen back down to the ground. So
I bet it was your tie. That's what
it probably was.
Yes.
It's made me sneeze a few times.
It was literally right when you walked up here. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't
She covered though, so I appreciate that.
Well, there's that. Yeah. Okay, we'll be right back with more news and a final check on that forecast.